Hello and welcome to Octopus Ukulele Academy Skill Builders with me, Andy Eastwood. And this time we're giving the left hand a workout with some common chords in the key of C. The more songs you learn, the more you'll notice that certain chord sequences appear regularly in different musical contexts. In this little practice routine, we'll look at some very popular chord progressions and help you familiarise yourself with them so that when they come up in a song, you'll be ready for them. Okay, so we're going to do a 4-chord sequence, but each time we play it, we're going to change the second chord in the sequence and keep the first, third and fourth chords the same. This is a neat little practice technique because it gives us the benefits of lots of repetition, but without getting too boring because we have to stay alert to remember which chord comes second on each line. So we start with C, which is a nice easy chord. That means you can be thinking about the second chord while you play this easy one. It's important to get into the habit of always thinking what comes next. And then the third and fourth chords, D7 and G7, remain the same. That's good not only because they're very commonly occurring chords, but also probably the trickiest chord change of the exercise. Why are they the trickiest? Well, because D7 is a bar chord. That means we have one finger, in this case the middle finger, across all the strings. This requires the hand to be in a position that brings the fingers parallel to the frets. In contrast, G7 is a chord where two different fingers have to be behind the same fret. The second and third finger are both stopping the strings at the second fret here and here. So that means that for this chord it's essential to have the fingers at an angle, very roughly speaking, of 45 degrees to the frets. So both fingertips can find their place behind the same fret. So the chord change from D7 to G7 is going to involve a rotation of the hand, wrist and forearm to enable these different finger positions. Now, if there are any chords here that are unfamiliar, just pause the video for a moment and practice them a little now before we begin the exercise. We don't want any fumbling around during the workout. The idea is to practice the chord changes cleanly and get them slick. Okay, so first of all, we'll play through these chords with 8 strums on each, so you have plenty of time to be thinking about what comes next and preparing yourself to make the changes. We don't need any fancy rhythms, we'll just do straightforward downstrokes on every beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because the focus of this practice is the left hand. If we try to think about too many things at once, we can distract the attention from the purpose of the exercise, so keep it simple. If you really feel it's just too easy for you, then you could make the practice routine more challenging by adding different rhythms, of course, but my suggestion is to concentrate on one thing at a time. So I'm going to say keep the right hand simple and give your attention to what's happening with the left. So I'll count 4 beats in and we'll play through the whole sequence. I'll call out the names of the chords on the first line, and then after that I'll just call the second chord each time. That's the one that's changing. And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, C. A minor 7. D7. G7. This time it's A minor. Now A7. Get ready for F. Lastly, D minor. And end on a C, so it sounds like we've finished. Now, if that seemed easy and you made all the chord changes without any trouble, we'll move on to the next step. If it was difficult or a little bit untidy, go back and do it again until it feels like less effort. If you can pinpoint any particular chord changes that are awkward, isolate those and practice them on their own first. I would imagine many people would find D minor to D7 one of the trickiest corners to manage. If you need to work on a chord change, try going backwards and forwards between the two chords in question for a couple of minutes, making the movement as neat as possible, and then do the whole exercise again, and hopefully it'll start to gradually feel more natural. When you're ready, we'll move on to step 2. What we're going to do now is the very same sequence of chords, but this time we'll just play 4 beats on each, so you have less thinking time to prepare. We'll play the whole thing through twice. First time I'll call the chords as before. The second time I'll keep quiet because hopefully by now you won't need that help. You get the ready? And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. C, A minor 7, D7, G7, A minor, A7, F, D minor, the whole thing again. On C, so it sounds like the end. Okay, as before, if that was tricky, go back and repeat it until it feels easier. It's an important part of practicing that you don't rush on ahead too quickly. Take things one step at a time. When you're ready, we'll move on. Okay, you can guess what's coming next. 2 beats per chord. So now there's very little time to think, and there isn't even time for me to call out the chords to help you, but by now these progressions should be seeming a little bit more familiar. We'll go through the whole thing 4 times. And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Second time. Third time. And that's the end. So how was it? You've got the routine now. If you need to repeat it, go ahead and repeat it until it's neat. Always review your practice and be honest with yourself about what you need to work on more and what you don't, so you make the best use of your time. When you're ready, there's one more step to go, and you can probably guess what it is. This time we're really going to race through those chord changes, 1 beat per chord. Once you get this nailed, you should really have those movements well and truly in the muscle memory. There's no time to think. By the time we get to this stage, the fingers have to be on autopilot, and that's exactly how we want them to be working. So if you're ready for this, let's give it a try. We'll go 4 times through. Take a deep breath, and here goes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, well done for getting this far. You've made it through this left hand workout, and depending on your level of expertise, you may have raced straight through it, or it may have taken you many attempts at each stage. It doesn't matter one bit. As long as you paid attention to making your chord changes neat and precise, it was time well spent. Join me again soon for another skill building session. Until then, enjoy your uke.